So the big data marketplace continues to evolve in ways that we haven't seen in the past. So for example, companies that were potentially building trial or test applications, sort of dipping their toe in the water 2-3 years ago, are now going into full-blown production. And actually that's fantastic news for WANdisco, because that means that levels of reliability and availability around that data when they're building critical applications is absolutely important, that they have technology like WANdisco's. And actually I'm going to tell you that WANdisco really is the only way that companies can guarantee that level of resiliency. So the deals that you've seen recently with WANdisco have really been, the direct deals have really been driven by that complete insistence that companies have reliability and availability of core data. The other trend is that, of course, as companies grow exponentially, it's very important that they have an infrastructure that's elastic and can support that level of data growth. And that's where cloud computing comes in. And cloud computing is proving to be an excellent alternative to on-premises compute, where they can explode out into the cloud, Amazon Web Services, IBM, Microsoft Azure, and so on, and be able to put lots and lots of data. It's called burst to cloud, put lots and lots of data into cloud. And that's also a great use case for WANdisco, because as companies need to move data from on-premises into cloud, they have to do so without an interruption to service. And I'll tell you a story a bit later around a big automotive company that had that exact use case. And we're seeing those use cases, companies on premises needing reliability and resilience in their core systems built on big data platforms, and the move to cloud, which requires data movement without an interruption to service. And those two are trends in the marketplace that we're seeing is very important. So we're way ahead of schedule with where we anticipated we'd be with our IBM OEM deal that we only signed really in the first half of the year. So if you think about it, we've trained 5,000 or so enterprise salespeople from IBM about the value of the product, how to sell the product, and how the technology works. We announced our first customer, which was a bank, in the third quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, we actually announced a very large deal with a very big automotive company that was probably a $3-4 million deal or something like that for IBM that we will get $1 million from. So that's fantastic news. And I talked earlier in the year about the operational leverage that we get. I don't think next year WANdisco is going to have, or in the next 12-24 months, WANdisco is going to have 5,000 enterprise salespeople selling our product. Well, actually we do, because IBM have that quantum of salespeople running around selling big data products. And we're a critical component of their infrastructure, because this automotive company had a big requirement to move masses and masses of data. In fact, we're talking about their car fleet in China. How do you move that into the cloud or into another data center without an interruption to service? We are the only technology that solves that problem. That's why they bought it. And of course, the gross margins, the effort it took for us to sell that was virtually zero. IBM sold it completely. It's a very large customer, an existing customer of IBM's that had this problem. So Amazon Web Services, AWS, is probably like for like the biggest technology business in the world today. They've grown exponentially over the past 10 years as cloud computing has taken a big foothold in enterprise computing. Our partnership with Amazon is highly strategic and very important. For the past sort of 6-9 months, we've really been working closely with Amazon to get our technology closely integrated with theirs. We just announced a deal with Playtika, who have a requirement to move data from on-premises into cloud. And we're seeing an interesting use case emerge in disaster recovery. Because is a company building a big data infrastructure really going to build another data center in order to back up that data? It's highly unlikely. You can do it in the cloud for sort of 5-10 cents on the dollar. So companies have got to move the data into the cloud, and that's where WANdisco comes in. The ability to move data completely reliably from on-premises into cloud for disaster recovery. That was the use case with Playtika, but we have other deals that are in the pipeline and looking very strong. We have new products coming out with Amazon in 2017, and we're very excited about the partnership. So in terms of patterns, we're seeing two things really. The first thing is the deal sizes are going up. We saw Q2, Q3, Q4 as break the largest big data deal that we'd ever done, and that's, I think, an important statistic, and our shareholders will be probably delighted to see the cash profile of those deals as well. The other thing that we're seeing is more traditional industries now move into big data and cloud. So that I just alluded to an automotive company, so we've got automotive banks. It's really a horizontal, it's across the entire economy, but certainly seeing more conservative, slower moving companies in the sort of America's Midwest, automotive and so on, begin to look at and begin to implement big data technology. And I think that's an emerging trend that we'll see continued in 2017. So when cloud came along, it actually gave us a fantastic acid test for what we do. So we talk about active-active replication, active transactional replication. And the key to this is moving data at large scale from point A to point B without an interruption to service. Because if it's archival or static data, nobody really cares. In fact, Amazon got something called Snowball and actually a snow truck where you basically mail the data or drive it on a truck from your data center to Amazon's data center. But what if it's not? What if it's data that you can't afford to turn off for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 30 days, and so on? Well, that's a hard use case, and WANdisco is the only known technology today that solves that problem. We've put in place, I think, some solid foundation stones. We've neutralized cash burn, all but neutralized cash burn in the fourth quarter. We continue to see that trend continue in 2017. We obviously expect to be generating cash as we go through 2017. So we've got costs under control. We also, remember, have increased bookings significantly between 2015 to 2016. I would expect that trend to continue in 2017. The first half pipeline certainly looks very strong, so we're looking forward to more growth on a sustainable cost base going into the new year.